everyone, and welcome to Schmidtless Live. I'm Kurt Schmidt, your host and president and partner at Foundry, and thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to have an amazing time because I've got my good friend, Mr. David Middlecamp, joining us. We're going to talk about all things on how to become a developer, whether you're transitioning from another career or you're thinking about it as a career. David has, been in the industry for a while, and he's going to share his expertise with us. And speaking of becoming a developer, I do want to mention that we are hiring at Foundry, of course. It's a shocker, right? It's something that you probably haven't seen if you watched this show a few times. Anyways, we are hiring, so check out the link. Go check out foundrymakes.com/careers. We're hiring for a lot of different positions. If you don't see a position that matches what you do exactly, reach out anyways. We always love to chat. We're a chatty bunch, pretty chatty, chatteroo. Okay. All right. Let's get into talks about being a software developer. One of the things that has got me excited over the last few years is the boot camps and all the different ways that the online learning, the ways that people are becoming and moving into engineering. And so David here is going to join me. David, how are you today? It's good to see you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I appreciate that. So David, can we start with how did you get into engineering and software development? What's your background? What bug bit you and made you want to code things for a living?
Absolutely. Well, I really wanted to play video games. I was 3 years old, and I really wanted to play Rampage on our family's old DOS box.
Fantastic game.
And so I had to learn. Movie. Oh, yeah. I haven't seen the movie, but
Yeah, you're fine.
It could be rough. The video game, of course, is amazing. And from there, it kind of led me to building my own startup disks on floppies that had extended memory drivers so I could play Ultima back in the day, which led to bulletin boards, which led to starting to read about programming and wanting to make my own software. But ultimately, it really started because I wanted to play video games and I needed to figure out how.
Yeah. Well, it's great. And so over the years, you started out, working in development, and you moved into manager positions. Now you're director of software engineering over at some weird place called Foundry, right?
Yeah. It's the funny thing, you manage a few things and you build some cool stuff, and suddenly you get to work with really awesome people building cool stuff every day. So it's funny how that works out.
Yeah, well, and that's why I wanted to have you on because, us as Foundry, we've been hiring a lot over the last, forever. We're a pretty quick growing company. And so that's why I wanted to take time with you, David, to share your experiences in hiring developers and what you're looking for and those sorts of things. So let's start from the very beginning. If I'm coming out of school, or I'm interested in making this switch because I've been online learning, what should I be expecting in that first and second interview? Like, what should I be expecting? What sort of questions should I be expected to be asked?
Sure, that's a really good question. I can talk about Foundry in particular, and I'm happy to talk about kind of the industry in general. Oh, it's really funny to see my full video here because you groom your background to try to look great for the podcast, and I think you can see my pile of desk garbage down here on the floor. So I was really only expecting a shoulders up experience, but this is good. You can see what the day-to-day life is like. At Foundry, what I try to do during our interview process is I really want to get to know you as a person who is interested in being a developer and working with the team. One of the things that's so important is we have this idea of kind of what we're looking for, but really the mutual fit is the most important thing. Like, are we the kind of place where you would want to work, where you would want to put your energy and time? So that mutual fit is really important, because interviews can often be not everybody's favorite thing to do. I try to make them a useful experience and a pleasant experience for the interviewee, for the person that's being interviewed. I think I've done maybe hundreds of phone interviews at this point in my career. And there are a couple of questions that I come back to that I really like because I think it's a good use of that person's time. One of my favorite questions is, if you were going to design it, if it was completely up to you, what would your dream job be? How would you design your dream job? And what I'm really excited about with that question is, I want to encourage the person I'm chatting with to really think through what is fulfilling to them, what is exciting to them, what are they passionate about, what do they want to spend their time doing?
Yeah.
Because for me, not to be, I'm going to be totally cheesy, right? But like, I think we're really privileged that we get to work on these projects where we're helping bring somebody's dream to life. We're building custom software. We're really working on cool stuff. And for me, I'm very passionate about that. And I know for some folks, they might be really passionate about, maybe their dream is starting their own business. And they really want to get that experience working in a small company, getting to wear a lot of hats, or maybe somebody's actually really passionate about public speaking and wants to go to conference and like give talks. And so it's a really great way to kick off a conversation and talk about, how is Foundry the right place to help make that dream happen or not?
Yeah.
Kind of in our day-to-day and like where we can stretch. So that's one in particular I really like.
I love it. Do you find that over your history of you've obviously applied at places, been hired at places, you've hired people. Let's talk a little bit about code challenges, right? So I hear so many different opinions and thoughts around what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate. I remember at a job years ago, people thought that we were making people do free work because the code challenge was so intensive. I've heard of other people talk about having to come in and whiteboard, like it's Goodwill Hunting and they're whiteboarding out like these incredible things and being watched and judged. What's your opinion just in general on code challenges? Are they valuable? Is it something I should expect if I'm looking to become a software developer?
This is a really good question, and there's been a lot of great conversation about this. I think one really sneaky part about code challenges that I think all of you hiring managers out there that are thinking about this, if you haven't thought about this, please do. A lot of people that are interviewing, that are looking for work, are working really hard. They have families, they have lives, they have circumstances that might not make it easy for them to spend a few hours, a few days, a weekend building a coding challenge. And that has nothing to do with how excited they are about working with you. That has nothing to do with how excited they are about the industry. That has more to do with their circumstances. And so if you're not with the coding challenges, setting your expectations, you might unintentionally or very callously filter out a huge chunk of the world that wants to work with you or that is valuable and whose time is valuable. Something that I try to do is we offer a coding challenge, but every single person that we chat with, I give them the opportunity to say, hey, this is not a requirement. This is a way we like to kick off this conversation. If you don't want to do that for any reason, here is option B. And option B is just as valid. We'll just come in and nerd out, pick any project you've ever worked on and we can talk about that, or we'll just like have a normal conversation and nerd out about being technical. What I've tried to do with our code challenge to, again, make sure that I'm not accidentally discriminating is, for the folks that do choose it, I recommend a maximum amount of time, where if you do choose to do this challenge, please don't spend more than 4 hours.
Yeah.
4 hours is still a lot of time.
Help give them an idea of how much time should be spent on it.
Exactly. Yeah. To give them an amount of time, to give them a fixed amount of time to do it, a week or 2 weeks, and to make sure they don't spend more than that time, so that everybody has a level playing field that does choose that path. And then on top of that, I try to choose a challenge that is fun. So ours is literally a game, a relatively simple programming game that you can choose to do or not. And a lot of people do choose to do it, and a lot of people don't, which is great.
Yeah, that's good. And what about team fit, right? That's really important, obviously, because it's very rare as an engineer these days that you are just, kind of the ponytail guy in the basement, right? Hunkered down with the servers. You're working in teams, sometimes very large teams, right? I know
Mhm.
in some of the larger enterprise places, you're on 30, 40 people teams sometimes. How important is that ability to work with other people versus being like an expert coder? What should I be more focused on?
That's a really good question. Um, for us in particular, we're not looking for, oh, you have to have 5 years of this programming language and 7 years of this programming language, because as an agency who's building custom software for our partners, we're often switching between technologies very frequently. You might be working on a project in Django, 1 week, and you might be working on a Java Spring Boot project the next week. So having a big stack of credentials isn't necessarily going to help you. What is going to help you is having very strong communication skills, being willing to learn new things, and really having a growth mindset of knowing that you're not born with all the skills you're going to have in life, right? It is okay to practice and learn, and I think that's something we try to do as a team as well, is make sure that there is space for people to learn, to be a beginner, to not always be 100% confident on the thing you're building while you're learning, but to make sure that you're getting that support from the team to still do your best work and do work that you can be proud of.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, because I find that team building aspect of it is incredibly important, because not only well, especially for our organization, I mean, you're not just working with the people that are on your team, you're working with clients and partners that also have developers, right?
Right. Yeah, that happens very often. So it's important that we set our egos aside a lot of the time. Like, we might have strong opinions on how we like to do things, but I think we know that that's not the only way to do something. Um, I know something. All of you who've been developers out there for at least a few years probably start to get a sense of here's how I like to do things in this programming language. Here's what like the correct way to do something, the right way to do something looks like. And
Right.
so it's really important to be open to other people's opinions, other people's ideas, and try to foster that conversation so that you end up better as a group.
Well, and so back to that piece, David, about languages and things. How many languages should I learn? How many? How do I know when I'm a software developer? What's the tipping point? That I know 4 languages, 5? That I can code in mod X, and I know every JavaScript version. Which when do I know that I'm ready? How do I know?
That's good. Yeah, a lot of our team dreams in assembly, and COBOL. We do sprints on
I do. Yes,
Erlang
absolutely.
back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
I think honestly, um, we have a really wide range of experience levels across the team. A lot of people have changed careers at different times in their life, and I don't think there's really, maybe the number of programming languages to feel confident in is one. Um, Once you've kind of gotten good at expressing yourself in one programming language, and really what we're talking about is, how do you take a problem you don't know how to solve and break it into smaller problems that you do know how to solve, or that you can figure out how to solve.
Right.
And if you're very strong in at least one programming language, you've at least practiced that habit of, how do I break this thing down and how do I solve it?
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
Expanding that to other programming languages becomes a lot easier. And of course, if we're sticking in the C-like language space, right? Those are all kind of friendly.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
Going from
Absolutely.
Java to .NET is pretty easy. Going from JavaScript to Ruby is a little harder, but going from Ruby to Python's easy. It's all a spectrum.
Yeah. Right.
One
Yeah.
one is enough.
So it's 2021 at the time here. I mean, obviously this will be outdated in 6 months, but what are some important languages I should be thinking about right now as a developer, or up and coming, yet you're seeing things that maybe I should be looking at or starting to explore? Are there any that jump out to you that you see some really good movement on?
That's a good question. It all depends on where you want to focus for your career, or what you're passionate about, what you're excited about. If you take the 10,000 foot view, right? As computers get more powerful, as networks become bigger, as the cloud becomes bigger, we tend to move up in levels of abstraction in terms of the power of those tools, and we tend to get more and more niche in the different subdomains, right? Like if you asked somebody what DevOps was 20 years ago, they would say, I don't know, but here's our webmaster, right? And that webmaster would like do all the emails, manage the database, take out the garbage. Like that person kind of did everything.
Set up the printer sometimes.
Yeah. And now that might be 50 different people or 100 different people. I think if you're looking for new opportunities, if you're looking to get out of your comfort level, learning things that make you uncomfortable skill-wise is really important. If you're a little scared of DevOps, maybe try managing some containers with Kubernetes. It's a big learning curve, but it is a hugely in-demand skill that's very important to a lot of businesses today. There is a ton to learn there. If you've never done any programming before and you want to get into programming in general, JavaScript is this absolutely fantastic language, kind of for two main reasons, and this is my own personal soapbox.
Yes,
one
please.
is there is this huge volume of knowledge, shared knowledge for JavaScript that you don't get with a lot of other programming languages. You can often go to somebody's random web page, somebody's random web app, and look at the source code and actually see what JavaScript they've written. And there's a tremendous abundance of tutorials and tools and libraries and everything to expand on that knowledge. And I think the other part that's really amazing about JavaScript that I don't think we talk about enough is JavaScript evolved with the modern kind of web page internet that we're all using now, right? From Netscape Communicator through the browser wars for the last 20 plus years. Has it been that long? Somebody's going to correct me, and I should check Wikipedia. But JavaScript had no choice but to become more forgiving over time, because people were learning JavaScript for the first time, going to somebody else's webpage, copying it, changing it, putting it up.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's why in all of our job descriptions we say you must have 3 years of Stack Overflow experience.
Right. Exactly.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, but the language itself is incredibly forgiving. It doesn't matter if you drop a semicolon sometimes or even express things the wrong way. The compiler is really trying to figure you out in a way that makes it very friendly and easier to learn. And there are a lot of great tools now. Node and all the various Node platforms, Express-based web servers and so on, give you the opportunity to write your front-end experience in JavaScript, your middleware in JavaScript and JSON, your backend in JavaScript, your data storage can be JavaScript. So you can really get a consistent tooling that you can't do with Java or Pascal or Python or anything.
So So speaking of that, let's say David, you're sitting down with a more seasoned developer. Maybe they're in their first year or so or more. And maybe I want to grow my career, right? I want to get, I want to make more money. I want to get promoted. I want to, go with Elon to Mars, whatever. Anyways, I want to win the lottery. What are things I should be focused on as my career is growing? Should it be just accumulating languages, just piling them into my little fanny pack of dev? I don't know where that came from. I don't know why I said that, but if you can just imagine a fanny pack of development, should I just be stuffing more things in there to increase my value to the organization? What things would you suggest that are ways that I can maybe start to get more noticed, get more accountability?
Yeah. And I'm really interested in this fanny pack of dev now, because those are coming back, fanny packs. Right. I think we can.
Yeah, I'm starting a merch store where you can get a Schmidt List dev fanny pack, and it will fit all versions of JavaScript in it, and most.
Scripts,
yeah, and you can walk around with your Git repo, physical on a jump drive. Sorry, this is bad. Go ahead, Dave.
No, this is great. This is great. I love it. If I'm your audience, which I'm not necessarily, because there's more than just me on this call. But I love it.
They're not used to me digressing at all, so it's very unusual. But
Sure.
yeah, sorry, David, I get sidetracked there. But yeah, what would be your advice to somebody who wants to grow their career?
That's a great question. So, something I try to do with everyone on the team individually is set personal professional development goals. For some folks on the team, that's, I want to carry more tools around with me. I want to know more languages. I want to know more frameworks. For some people, that's, I want to wear more hats. I want to get involved in parts of the organization I haven't been in before. I think if I'm doing my own personal soapbox, I've worked on a lot of programming languages. I've worked in a lot of different problem spaces, from high performance computing, distributed data science stuff to servers and non-government organizations and all this stuff. The part that's helped me the most over the years is getting better at working with people. How do I communicate with people? How do I build a project together? Because, if let's say you're a 10x developer, right? You alone can develop 10 times as fast as someone else. You're not going to be as fast as 20 people or 100 people or 1,000 people. And most of the stuff that's getting built nowadays if you want to go to Mars with Elon, right? How many employees does SpaceX have? How many engineers work on the Chrome browser is a good sense. Like, you're not going to sit down and build the Chrome browser from scratch yourself.
Right. Yep.
You're just
Here's
not
your
going to
first
write.
Project.
Yeah, you're not going to write 10 million lines of code by yourself.
Yeah.
Your fingers don't move that fast, unless you're going up levels of abstraction and you're using AI. And if so,
sure,
give me a call. But I think learning to work with people is really so very important. And it's something that I think a lot of us as developers don't think of, because we often think of our job as just working with the computer and kind of telling the computer what to do. And ultimately, those conversations that we have with customers, with coworkers are really, really important. The second part I would add to that, if you do want to add more skills to your tool set, if you do want to increase your value from a financial, let's say you want to get a big raise, right? There are kind of two things you can look at. One is, think about the people at your organization. Think about the problems that your organization has, right? Put on your CEO hat or your president hat, and think about what costs that company money and time. And think about what you can do to help those things, right? Like at Foundry, we often talk about, if you want the job, like doing the job before you have the job. Like show us why you should be the person with that job, and we're going to do everything we can to help make that happen. But I think the other part of that too is finding technology problems that make you uncomfortable, right? Like, one of my least favorite things to do is set up continuous integration, continuous deployment services. I love having them. I love it when they're in projects.
Yes.
Personally, it's hard for me to do it. So I try to do it every chance I can, because I want to be better at it.
Yeah.
Because it's valuable.
Yeah.
So I would encourage someone to do that. Like, if you're working on a project, you're like, oh, somebody has to make the strings file and make sure this application works in multiple programming languages. And that sounds like a lot of work and it's really hard. Go do it. It's probably really valuable work that you can add to your fanny pack of dev tools.
Fanny pack. I love this. I need to rename the title of the episode now. So
thank you.
Go back and do that later. And I love what you said, because I think that's the same advice I give people in almost any position, which is don't wait for the title before you do the job. If you're looking to get there, start doing that work now. So many people I've seen passed over in terms of promotions or opportunities because they were kind of waiting for somebody on high to come down and touch them on the shoulder and be like, "You're the one, you go," now, be that full person, and I had a great leader told me one time, if you're ever in a position that you feel completely comfortable and ready for, then you're in the wrong position.
Sure.
They say you get promoted to your highest level of stupidity.
The Peter principle.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm living proof of that, David. So the real issue that I've seen is that it's people that are waiting for permission and
Mhm.
not challenging themselves. So in terms of challenging yourself, David, a developer in an engineering job can be somewhat lonely sometimes, right? So should I be joining groups? Should I be going to conferences? Let's say maybe my team isn't as culturally awesome as you point out, right? How are other ways that you've seen people be successful in sort of expanding their horizons when it came to development as a career?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I want to just for a second touch on what you said too, again, about not waiting for the title. I think it's important too to take a step back and um, not everyone at your company, not everyone on your team might feel comfortable doing that, right? Like for a lot of reasons, folks might feel like they don't have permission to do those things, or they might not,
Exactly.
might put them in a bad place to step out.
That's the key. Like they're waiting for permission from somebody that never comes.
And so I think that's a good reminder for us as leaders in those organizations to proactively search out folks and remind them and share with them like what their possibilities are, what their options are for growth, and kind of encourage and foster them. And um, I've been having great conversations with my team about that, and that's something I'm really excited about. But coming back to your question of, where do you network? Where do you meet people? Uh, it can be very lonely being a developer, especially during a pandemic, right? You
Yes.
might normally be going to conferences, you might bump into people. I used to travel a lot for my job, and I would run into the same sorts of people over and over again at conferences. I think I saw the same like four guys from Target
Yeah.
4 to 6 times a year all over the United States because we just kept running into each other at conferences. And it turned into a joke at a certain point because like we were all over the place. For me personally, I'm in a couple Slacks that are tech focused Slacks. I would encourage you to go to meetup groups. I don't know if meetup.com is still a thing, or Eventbrite
Still a thing.
has a bunch of those. So those are great places to meet folks. Um, if you're not part of a community and you don't know where to break in, sometimes open source projects are a good place. They'll
Mm.
often have their own chat rooms and forums and discords, especially if it's a topic you're really passionate about. That can be a great place to meet people who are making things happen in that space. You probably watch somebody code on Twitch. Might be a good
Yeah, you
starting
probably
point.
could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You could do that. All right. And
You can always
lastly,
follow me on Twitter. Yeah.
yeah, follow hashtag Middlecamp. So David, for the last question here is that if it's somebody that has maybe again career switching, they're thinking about moving into software development as a career.
Mhm.
Maybe they have some experience, right? Like you said, maybe when they were younger, they coded a bit and stuff, but they ended up moving into a different career for one reason or another, and they're thinking about getting back into it. What's
Mhm.
some piece of advice that you would give them to think about as they go into that career as we always talk about, people are like, follow your passion, but what if it's, not necessarily something you're passionate about, but it's something that maybe you're just good at and you're curious
Mhm.
about?
Yeah. Something that I really like to bring up that I think is important for anyone coming back into development or thinking about programming, that I want you to be ready for. And everyone's experience is different. This is my experience. This is what's been true for me. If you were to graph the amount of time, say, uh, something that you're programming works the first time versus how much time you spend on it, right? At the start of your career, that line might start off with lots and lots of time invested and not a lot of success. And it might get better over time, right? Like you might become more successful with less effort, um, but you're going to be frustrated. You're going to spend a lot of your time frustrated, searching for that semicolon that you missed, or that quote that you
Right.
missed, or that syntax error, or what is this error trying to tell me?
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you to like remember that is okay, that is expected. Development can be very frustrating, and so I would encourage you to tie that to something that you're passionate about. I want to play a video game.
Yeah.
I want to start a business. I want to solve this problem in my life, and use that passion to help you ride out that frustration so that you can get yourself kind of over that hurdle. Because I think a lot of people who otherwise would be amazing developers, who are very smart, very hardworking people, get frustrated, and I think they wonder, like, am I cut out for this? What am I missing? Why are other people good at this and not me? And I think it's often some of us just are really willing to put up with being very frustrated for a long time.
Yeah, very thick
without
skin.
any kind of success, right? And once you get over that, I think that kind of unlocks a really major gate into engineering.
I love that perspective, David. David, I want to thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy because I'm making you more busy. And I apologize for that. But thank you for taking the time, short notice, to join me on the show. I really appreciate your perspective always on all things when it comes to development. So thank you for taking the time to share with us. If I want to connect with you, David, or if I want to learn more about the positions that are available at Foundry and what's going on there, where's a great place to connect with you?
So there's an email address right on the posting, which is careers@foundrymakes.com. My email is david@foundrymakes.com. If you find my Twitter account, I'm probably just retweeting and reposting silly things that I find, but you're always welcome to contact me there. I'm at Middlecamp on Twitter. Yeah, whatever's easy. I'm sure my email will be below in the comments.
Yeah, we'll put it down in the description below.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. Thanks, David. I'll let you go. Get back to work.
Thanks, Kurt.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join myself and David today for that discussion. I apologize for the fanny pack thing, but it's going to be a thing now, I think. A few people have already messaged me while I've been doing the show and really want it. So, if you wanted to, leave a mention down in the comments, and then also hit the buttons on the thing, hit the likes and the subscribes and the notification, whatever. If you want to know when we're going live, but we're trying to go live more often, every Tuesdays, Thursdays, around 1 o'clock coming up. So if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day today. It means so much to me. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.